We're going to start in a couple of minutes here, folks.
Really getting old.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, one of those.
We've got a special event tonight that you're going to be happy knowing that you were at the fire. I'm sure you heard that slogan. Well, I don't know what the question always is. Well, how did that happen? And the answer is, well, I don't know. I wasn't at the fire. Well, tonight you are at the fire, and in the years to come, our kids and grandkids, and I suspect uncounted or countless others are going to say, you mean to tell me somebody actually had the foresight to beat Facebook at its own game? Because that's what we're talking about here. Each time I do a posting, I always think, I wonder if that'll be there tomorrow. Mr. Zuckerberg earned another nearly, what was it, $1 billion in the first quarter of this year.
Oh, my.
He's the creator of Facebook. And the stock shot up 130% the first 3 months of this year. Now, we hope that means he's going to continue to have favor and grace on us non-paying participants. If you'll notice, there's more and more ads.
Oh, yeah.
That's how the stock went up 130%. So we have the good fortune of one of our longtime, in fact, born and raised in St. Paul, one of our friends, Larry Bieza, who came to me several months ago and said, I've got an idea. I said, okay. And I'm not particularly technically savvy, so, by the way, my name's Angelo, and that doesn't matter, but I'm sure some of you are wondering why I'm talking, and that's because I'm the unofficial organizer of this disorganized group. And that's how we want to leave it. No rules, no bylaws, none of that. Yeah. So Larry said, I've got an idea, and over the months we've met and shared some, well, he shared with me what he's doing and has done, and I find it absolutely amazing. I hope that you will find it as amazing. Most importantly, our memories are going to be preserved, and that's something that we have no promise of on Facebook, because they can cut us off anytime they want. And already you might have noticed there's a lot of irregularities, and that's because they don't pay attention to us non-payers. And I don't blame them, but I wish they would do a better job. So with that, Larry Bieza is going to introduce his brainchild and take it over.
Thanks, everyone. We're going to keep this kind of a social type of event here. The format we're going to use is probably a little different than you've seen before. So we're going to test this, see if it works. We're going to talk about the site and things, but I also want to talk about people's memories a bit and how they shape Lyfmap. I was at a meeting some time ago, and after the meeting, like will happen here, everybody breaks into little groups and talks, right? And we never hear any about that. There's a lot of interesting conversations probably going on between these little groups that form. So we're going to just kind of do those conversations that would have happened maybe after this thing, and we'll actually bring them here. So let's start it out. Angelo, you're the guy here. You're the first person up to the chair, so come on over.
Oh, he didn't know that.
I already said my part.
No. Have a seat over there, sir. We're going to have a little conversation here.
This will not rehearse, folks.
All right. So we'll go to, we're going to go to an address on here. And actually, Angelo has been posting some stuff on Lyfmap already. Just a show of hands, how many have gone to the site of you guys? So,
Whoa.
Got a pretty good group. Excellent. Thanks a lot. Yeah. How many have figured out how to post and things? They have a good sense of it. About halfway. We'll deal with that. We're always trying to make things as easy as possible. I think it's fairly easy now. Once people know how to do it and they're familiar with the process, it's, I think, pretty simple after that. But I don't want to. We'll delve into a little bit of the meat and potatoes, but I don't want to make that a huge part of the thing. I just want to shift over this way a little bit. That's excellent. All right, so we go to we go to one of Angelo's memories, which is 670 Payne Avenue. So we come down and we see various entries that have been made. 1976, you can see here, was Gino's Restaurant, Gino's Cafe in 67, and we can work back through the timeline.
Blocking their way.
Oh, okay.
We're okay. I don't have to.
We're gonna be having a conversation though. I'm gonna sit here, right?
Somehow, we'll just
A
pass,
talking part, folks.
I'll pass the microphone over my shoulder and you can take over.
Is that better or worse?
I'm good.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I got
You guys all good back there?
So we have an entry by Angelo, and he has made eight entries so far. I know he's been very busy in Italy, so he's definitely going to be hitting a lot more information here. But 1953, Angelo had made a memory entry. And I'm going to hand you this. I'll actually read the entries for people. Just I don't know why I came up with that format, but that's what we're going to do. 670 Payne, 1953. Gino's Restaurant was one of the classic Italian spots in the Twin Cities, owned and managed by the man over there. Owned and managed by the Lombardi Lenzi families from before World War II to the 1980s. My two favorite memories are when my Uncle Felix Santella, my mom's brother, got married there in 1953, and we were all invited to the luncheon after Mass at the old St. Ambrose Church on Lower Payne Avenue. It was the first time us kids ate a meal at a real restaurant. We never had the money to do that, besides my mom was a fabulous cook. The other memory was when Mom would send one of us kids to walk across a very, very busy Payne Avenue to buy a loaf of bread, of freshly baked Italian bread, to enjoy with her on a great Sunday meals after Mass. Oh, the aroma and taste melted butter on that hot bread. I can imagine that already. The other interesting recall is two very large pencil drawings of the Lombardi brothers hanging over the bar, both in their World War II uniforms, which have had a lasting impact on me. Gino's was a classic family-run restaurant with all the wonderful food and hospitality one could imagine. The memories will last forever.
Just a little bit about that, Angelo.
Well, it was this was a poor neighborhood. We're talking about the Lower East Side, Railroad Island, 1 block south of Ham's Brewery, of Payne, Minnehaha. And we had the good fortune of having 2 first-class Italian restaurants. One of them is still there, the Russo's, the oldest Italian family-owned restaurant in the state of Minnesota, now at 78 years, same family. So the memories, just when Larry said, well, think of some of the places that you visited as a kid. Well, my uncle got married when I was 10 years old, and that really was the first restaurant experience that I'd had. And of course, they had way too many utensils on the east side of the plate. I didn't understand what was going on. And those are the things that happen as a kid when you're experienced to an adult kind of experience. Anyway, it's a sad story, of course, in a way, because it's been closed now for, gee whiz, Pat Ritchie here?
Yeah.
About 15 years since they closed it, longer than that? That's as far back as my memory goes. So, wow, 20? Gee, more?
70s?
Was it that long ago? Oh my. Yeah, very sad. Great food, great people, personal touches, lifetime memories. But crossing Payne Avenue is what I remember as a kid, because Payne Avenue was really busy.
And wide.
Well, to get the bread. What?
No, wide.
Oh, wide, yeah,
Wide.
very wide. It was
Yeah.
4 lanes, we'd have to run like crazy. And I always sort of figured Mom and Dad can't care a lot about me. Dodging. Anyway, I hope that each of you will share these kind of memories, along with a lot of others. But it was fun for me to share this because I know a lot of people went to Gino's from around the Twin Cities. And that was just my recall. I'll be happy, I know we'll all be happy to read yours.
Angelo's a natural storyteller, right, guys? So, Angelo, what I want you to do, consider this. Lyfmap can save any type of memory. We can save text, we can save photos, we can save audio, oral history, and video. So consider this. Dictate an audio history. Tell a story of some of these locations. It doesn't have to be all of them. It's whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you want to share. But some people are natural storytellers. Some people are naturally typists, dramatists, whatever. And some people do very simple entries, right? Whatever that means to you. It doesn't have to be the world's most engaging thing. It's something of value to you, and hopefully other people will find some value with that as well. My kind wife Linda had just mentioned to me that I probably didn't explain what Lyfmap is, just to just to be sure. There may be people here who have no clue what we're talking about. So let's just very quickly on that. Gene was just asking me about this, what got me started on this, and some years back I was kind of taken. My dad died a number of years ago now, and he had told me memories of growing up in Chicago back in the gangster era, and I thought, oh, as a kid, boy, that's really cool. I wish I heard about those times. Well, I never, you're a kid, you don't really pay attention, and you go do your own things, and you're not really listening anymore, and we never really revisited that in later years. So people save all these memories, right, and then they disappear and they're gone. I would have so liked to have heard those stories from my dad. And just to finish this tale, a few months ago, my sister gave me a CD, and I said, "What's this?" She said, "Dad did audio recordings back in the 70s of his time in Chicago at all the addresses he was at, telling stories." So as soon as I get a spare moment, they'll be thrown on Lyfmap. So, but Lyfmap is all about sharing memories. It's about memories from your life that you can share, and the novel thing about Lyfmap is that because it's Google Maps based, you can share them at the locations they happen. So your childhood home address, you'll punch in your address, it will come up, and then you could add entries on the timeline. You put in the dates. You can start out with an approximate date, right? I sometimes get a little concerned, oh, I need the exact month, the day. No, a lot of these entries will have just a year potentially. You just blank out the month and the day. You add a year. And then if you notice off to the side here, is the approximate. There's an approximate checkbox, and Angelo wisely put approximate. He was probably in 53 or right in that vintage. So he puts approximate, and people know that then. But you can always come back and revisit, right? Or other family members will chime in on the comments or something. You sure it was this year? Maybe it was this year. And you can always go in and edit to change, make things more accurate, whatever you can accomplish on that. Another thing that kind of, I think, will stand alone from Facebook as well on this is, other than making sure memories are preserved, is that people will put, I think, memories that are more interesting, right? Things in their life, things that really pertain something to them, rather than here's my breakfast, right? Or here's my dog rolling over. So what I'm hoping, and I think it's true, when you say people's memories, these are things that stand out in your mind, right? These aren't the coffee ground spills, right? These are the things that really mean something. And you can start with those touch points in your life, the various locations, and then you can add more as time goes on, which some people have done. Some people have very short things, and then they can fill it in afterwards, right? So, and we'll show a little bit of demonstration stuff later on. I think Paula will kind of demonstrate a little bit of a thing there. Angela, we're going to go through just a couple other quick ones for you. So let's go to another entry Angela made, 657 North Bedford. So you get an entry here, I'll read that. My namesake and Uncle Angelo Rulli, his wife Josephine, and their children, John Babler, Dennis, and Linda Rulli, lived there. Angelo was my dad's brother, and they spent a great deal of time together. Aunt Josephine was the only woman in the family and one of the few in the neighborhood who had a driver's license, which meant that when our dads were working or busy, she would shuttle us to various activities. A favorite memory is when we kids were packed in a big Oldsmobile, including 2 more in the trunk. They didn't need tickets, and went to the Minnehaha Drive-In Theater on Minnehaha and McKnight Road. Then as soon as we were in, we'd let the kids out of the trunk. Hopefully.
The only comment I would make to that is, I have had a fear of trunks since childhood. And one of the happiest moments of my life was about 10 years ago, when car makers agreed they would put a safety hatch release inside the trunk, and that it would glow in the dark. No more fear of being locked in the trunk.
Have you tested it to see if it really did? Did Josephine take you?
Oh, did she ever? With that damn cigarette hanging out of her mouth. She not only was the only woman I knew that had a driver's license, but she was the only one who smoked. And she would smoke, you might remember this, maybe you did it yourself. She would never flick the ash. And that ash is there about half the length of the cigarette. And we're always waiting for it to fall off and burn her leg.
Pat, you got something?
You mentioned Babbler, and there's an obituary today for something Nicasimo Babbler, which brings up the thought of obituaries. How, yes, no, maybe we could find their address where they lived or something like that, or would you know?
I'm not sure, Pat, you mean just pull something from the obituary and type it into Lyfmap, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, eventually I envision recruiting people from reporters from the newspaper to make entries, stories they report and things. I mean, this can go a lot of information, but yeah, no,
Probably be better if someone from knew
the
them.
family.
or-
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
we could tie it to an address.
No, that's a great point, Gene.
Well, couldn't they just scan it and then attach the whole obit if they
So
wanted,
it's copy
probably?
and paste it from the online.
Yeah.
Yeah, either way, any document, you can always scan it and put it on as a photo, not a problem. Hey, and anybody too, if some of these memories strike you in a certain way, you got something that it calls back something from your mind, from your past, just go ahead and shout out or stick up a hand or whatever, if you want to be the polite way. We don't care, just throw out your thoughts too, because we're here about sharing memories. The one thing I'll say on there is kind of an odd thing is, what did we say? McKnight Road. Well, McKnight Road used to be called East Avenue back in the day, and it was 1957 they actually changed the name of the street. So someone actually had a question earlier about street name changes. St. Paul has been like crazy on street name changes. I went down to City Hall, actually to the street department, and they have these volumes from like the 1880s. These dusty old volumes, and all this pen and ink, the quill pens where they actually wrote in the street names as they changed and when they changed. It's kind of crazy, and they've never compiled it into a document. I was like shooting pictures of all these pages to help me, but they've never done it. If I ever get time, I'll go down there and just put it all in an Excel spreadsheet so people can actually use it, because it's very difficult right now. But lots of name changes in St. Paul. So how do we deal with that? If the street is as an existing name now and it's just changed from the old name, just go to the address of the new name street, right? Place your memory entry there, and in the content that you're putting your text, just put the name. Hey, by the way, the street back then when this memory took place was named such and such street, right? Because then the search becomes extremely valuable on this. There's a search box for the entire site. So you can just type in anything there and you never know what's going to come up. There could be anything. Like, for example, here for Angelo, we have some city directory entries. So this is in 1895, there was Vina Paul, who was a stenographer. She was a boarder at that address. And this is 657 North Bedford. And then Rudolph Paul, probably family, obviously family in some way, was a foreman and worked at St. Paul, what would that be? St. Paul Railroad, one of the railroads. And lived
St. Paul, Duluth?
as well.
Duluth.
Duluth, okay, St. Paul, Duluth Railroad, yeah, right, we're only getting back there. The trains aren't going up that way anymore. So let's move to the third, we have one more for you, Angelo. Let's bring that up. Okay, we have 695 Preble Street. I had never heard of Preble before, that's,
For a very good reason.
Whole block long.
One black law.
one block long,
It's
all right.
over.
We'll hand this off to you and I'll just read it. So 695 Preble in September of '48. My first day of kindergarten at Lincoln Elementary School.
Oh, dear.
I recall we had to be inoculated for various ailments, and when it was my turn with the doctor, he poked me with the needle. I screamed out a profanity and horrified my mother as we were in the gymnasium with a horde of other parents and kids, and the reverberation throughout the gym was heard by all. I heard about that incident for years afterwards.
Well, they didn't warn me that it was gonna hurt. I wanted to comment briefly on McKnight. The two founders of 3M were named McKnight and Bush. And the headquarters on the east side was on a street named after a very famous or infamous French explorer who did a lot of exploration in that part of town. His last name was Fauquier. Impossible to pronounce, and even more impossible to spell. And sometime in the mid-50s, Fauquier was changed to...
Careful how you say it.
I think he shifted a little bit there.
Buckware was changed to Bush, and you all know where Bush is, and that's the story behind that. And a lot of anger over that back then, that they would take a historic name, but Bush and McKnight had a little bit of influence over what streets would be named.
And Angelo recently had, I forget, I had it from a post on Lyfmap or not, but that your mother grew up in Cumberland, Wisconsin, which was brought back memories for me because I'm trying to find the location of the cabins, and I'll find that. My sister knows exactly, but there were a fellow named George Biros ran tourist cabins up on Beaver Dam Lake in Cumberland, Wisconsin. Our family used to go up there every summer. We take the 90-minute or so drive up to Cumberland and enjoy some time there. So it was just those memories of the little fish house and all the cabins, the banging screen doors and stuff. It was really cool, so hopefully you can bring that to the site eventually. But it certainly brought up a memory to that. You mentioned their Lincoln Elementary School. Where was that?
At the corner of Burr and what was then Collins, now Tedesco. It's right behind Morelli's
Right.
Deli and Liquors.
What was the first street?
Well, Tedesco now used to be Collins and Burr.
Burr? Okay.
It's now, it has been for about 30 years, townhome.
Oh.
The city bus turns right in front of what was the old school.
Should bring in theirs.
Yeah, coming up University and heading up anyhow.
So we type in Burr and Tedesco, and then it brings us to Burr and Tedesco at the corner. So then Angelo would determine, so where were we talking? Which?
On the, what would that be?
North, south.
West, southwest corner.
Southwest of this building here
Southwest?
potentially.
No, on the other side.
On the other side.
This side.
Nope,
This side.
straight north. Right there,
Right.
right there.
So northeast.
Townhomes are where the school was.
Okay, so.
You see Morelli's, it's listed there on the,
So all Angelo would have to do is make a determination of where it was, and his memory would work perfectly fine for that. He clicks here, he places a blue pin, he comes down here, clicks add a memory, and then we go down, and now I can add a memory at that location, right? So I'll select the date, 2010, whatever the date is, I'll select my month, I'll select my year, and you can also blank these out if you wish. You can just put a blank in there instead of a number. So 2010 is my selection. I make a selection of whether they visited, worked, lived there, anything personal to you, or if you're making a historical entry that didn't apply to you, you would make that here, history, not personal. And everything on the site is virtually, let me show that. If it's a business location or a school or something like that, I can type it right here, and then that will stay with the site. I enter my text, and then I hit save, and I save the memory. And it's as simple as that. Then it will be like all these other pins that people can click on and take a look at what was saved there. And let's take a look at that pin.
Show them how when you hover.
I'm sorry?
Show them
Yeah,
how
yeah,
when
the
you
hover. So that's an example. So right here, this is 600 Lafayette Road. Okay, so that's just an address someone put in, and there was an entry made there. But as you hover over any of these pins, they'll give you information on whether it was, if it was a restaurant. A lot of these are just home addresses where there's entries made. Actually, Sally Hakala, one of our users, made an entry here about living on Collins Street as a child. So you click View Entire Memory. That's the memory. She kept it a fairly short one, but giving information. Collins is now Tedesco Street, so she mentions that in her thing. People who search Tedesco or Collins, that'll bring up this memory as one of the selections. If you guys have memories of Collins, you put them in. People do a search. People will find all the Collins entries, so they'll be able to track that. So there's an example of how the site can be used. So you can either place a pin anywhere on the map you want to, place a memory in the middle of Weeda Park. You could place a memory if you want. Just click add a memory and add a memory, and you're there. Save it. Wherever. Kind of an interesting thing, kind of fun for me, was that we reinstalled Sweet Hollow back onto the map.
Oh, good.
So you can go to any of the when Angelo figures out where his uncle's
Dad.
Dad, where his place was. I'm guessing it was somewhere up in here. There may be a house structure that he can put a pin on, or wherever he wants to place a pin on Sweet Hollow, and talk about his family members there.
Larry,
Yes,
you know, if you create a pin like that,
yes.
is that anchored by the GPS location?
Yes, absolutely, GPS location.
And these other pins that are based on addresses, are
Yes.
they anchored by GPS locations also?
Everything's anchored by GPS location,
Okay, great.
but if you noticed on that one where I clicked and then placed a memory, let's show that memory. You see there's a GPS location shows up in the box here?
Okay, yeah,
That will just be a GPS location. Now, if you assign a name to it,
yeah.
it'll be saved for the hovers like Gene was talking
Oh,
about.
terrific.
So you'll see that. And actually, let's go.
I asked him that, and that's where you plug in your address, because
Yeah.
I'm recreating a whole neighborhood that's no
Yeah.
longer there.
Gene, we're gonna get to that a little bit down the road.
Okay.
So Gene's gonna show you an example of what she created, which is really fantastic. So Angelo, you're out of here.
I have